The growth of slum is a process, and it is not just an occurrence that happens overnight. It is a process whereby you realize that facilities, infrastructures, and services that are provided in a particular community continue to disintegrate and to the levels of dilapidation, whereby it can no longer cope with the demands of the residents. And in that case, we will say a slum has been created. And honestly speaking, looking at the influx of people from rural areas to urban centers, you realize that people overstress the existing facilities that have been provided either by the government or community effort. Take, for example, in a situation whereby a transformer has been provided for a community, a transformer that is meant for about 300 to 350 people. Before you know it, it will be serving more than 1,500 people. And by the time the power, either Ikeja electricity or name it, that are in charge of electricity provision now, power provision, you now realize that by the time they brought in light, within 10 minutes, the whole thing blew off. It is because of pressure that they've exerted on the transformer. And to me, I rather call it lack of proper planning. And it goes on like that. Look at pipe-borne water, look at our roads, look at our building, even the housing sector. The newly incoming to the state, to the urban center, they might not even have enough money to rent an apartment in a very good location. They will have to look for where land will be cheaper, where rent will be cheaper, and that is the example you made, like Makoko, Ijorabadia, name it. And these people will cluster in that particular area without facilities, public toilet, good roads, sanitation, schools. Even the kind of structure they put in place, it is only Ijora, Makoko, and all the rest that I've seen where people use corrugated iron sheet to make a shelter.
What about the issue of Ajegunle?
Ajegunle, in fact, it has been there. It has been a lingering problem when you come to that areas of Ajegunle. It is Ajegunle where I've ever seen people defecating on the street. Whenever there is any downpour in terms of rainfall, you see them carry the loads, heaps of refuse, dumping inside gutter, believing that erosion will carry everything. And at the end of the day, the whole thing will be spread on the road, thereby creating health problems. We are talking about pandemic now. It is not just COVID-19 that brings all this death we are seeing in our community. It is as a result of slum creation, because people fail to realize the need for living adequate, good environment. And honestly, I believe government cannot do this thing alone, and we need the services of NGO and private estate developers.
Before you go to that, would you say government efforts, Lagos State, Urban Renewal Agency?
Honestly, we have Urban Renewal Agency in Lagos State. They are doing their best to make sure that at least they've identified about 175, name it, blighted area in Lagos State. I don't know how they can cope, because the government has an intention of bringing the situation to a proper perspective. But honestly speaking, the paucity of funds by the state government cannot enable them to be able to cope. We shouldn't blame them for that. They are trying their best. Even when they say, there is an adage, they say once a problem is known, it is half solved. But it is left between you and I to know what to do at any point in time to improve our living standard.
Do you think the private individuals...
Let me give you a living example. I have a client now. The name is Pragmatic Homes Nigeria Limited. There is a place down Omaletu, Olowora, Axis. It is regarded as lowland. And the problem they have in that corridor, it is the drainage channel that doesn't cut across. I believe during the regime of our minister now, Raji Fashola, they've started the construction of that drainage. But because of the paucity of funds, they couldn't extend beyond the point they reached now. And we now have a private estate developer who volunteered to embark on the construction of that drainage, even access road. But honestly speaking, if we can see many of these estate developers coming to assist government in making provision for all this infrastructure, I think it goes a long way at creating slums. Because if that corridor is left undeveloped by a qualified estate developer who has the means to make provision for all these things, it will turn to a slum. Let me give you an example of this Olowora axis, Okera axis along Ifakejayi. If you see the way people develop haphazardly, right from day one when that place was developed, they've created slums. But by the time people have occupied it, and government is now coming to say, okay, we want to remove every one of you there, it creates another problem. Where are you going to settle them? But it is better done right from the onset by not allowing such type of development. And if there's going to be any development, let it be from those that are qualified to do it, so that they will have good structures, good road, good urban infrastructures and services, coupled with the utilities. But in a situation where every dig and carry just come and have 1 room, 2 rooms, without accessibility, you will definitely create a slum. And that is what led to Ajegunle, Ijora Badia that we are mentioning. So, honestly, by the time the Pragmatic is coming in to do this, you now realize that they will have their layout plan. They will do the drainage in conjunction with the state government, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Physical Planning, Lands Department, and all these things. And they will do it on private partnership, PPP. It goes a long way at reducing the slum in the state. Likewise, NGO. Because I believe urban renewal is a process. And by the time you are now saying, you know, we have different kinds of urban renewal. Some people grow to slum as a result of lack of infrastructure. Some people develop to slum as a result of decaying in existing structure. Some areas degenerated into slum as a result of lack of facilities or inadequate facilities. So what we are saying in essence is that there is need to have proper monitoring live from day one, so as not to allow slum development.
Thank you so much, sir.
In fact, what we are now saying in essence is that let government allow private estate developer to engage or involve in developing an estate so as not to allow slum development. Let us encourage NGO, CDA, CDC. Let me give you an example. In my community, it's like all of us were living a kind of ecological housing, whereby we are the one that made provision for roads, electricity, water, even security. And we monitor ourselves. So we don't rely on government to come and construct drainage for us before we gutter, name it, culvert, and etc. We bought poles, we bought cables, even though at the end of the day, the NEPA or Keja electricity will lay claim to what we use our money to acquire, to turn it to their own property. But yet, we are the one enjoying the services and the infrastructure. I cannot afford to be dumping my distance, park my road, when I'm not living in one area in Ibadan, where you cannot even access your building. So, it is by the time government create that enabling environment, whereby people will be encouraged, then there will be a reduction in the growth of slum in Lagos State. Thank you.